It's been a week and 5 days since I saw that video of George Floyd taking his last breath, dying at the hands of Minneapolis police. And in that week, I've tried to empathize with people, try and understand different people's perspective, different people's point of view. That's the way that I was raised. I was raised to be empathetic, to try and understand that different people come from different walks in life. But throughout this experience of myself, growing up the way that I grew up, growing up where I grew up, with the people that I grew up with, the people that I've associated with since I became an adult, all the things, all the knowledge that I've learned, I get angrier and angrier and angrier to the point that I feel like I had to make this video. I don't know how long this video is going to be. It's not scripted. It's just these things that I've been mulling and thinking about. The reality is I'm a black man in America. Look at me, all right? This is how I dress on a regular basis when I'm not in a professional capacity. As soon as I get off of work, this is how I look, okay? I am who I am. I'm an individual. And that's what's made me so angry. That everything that I've achieved, everything that I've accomplished, there's this narrative, there's this story that keeps on getting repeated by all these people I see on social media, the news stories, that say that apparently my narrative is something that's unique and it doesn't happen, which I completely reject. I think it's straight up bullshit, and excuse my language for that. I was raised in a small town. I was raised by a single mother. My father is an immigrant from West Africa. My mom and dad were married. They split up. My dad had some substance abuse problems. He was doing crack. She moved back to her home state from California, where I was born, and she moved to North Dakota. And I lived in an area, and I grew up in an area in my hometown that was called the Welfare Square. Now, the reason I even explain this is because I grew up in a poor lifestyle, okay? The people that I became friends with as a kid all were poor as well. Now, yeah, I had friends that weren't poor as well, because that's the average experience. You don't just have one little sect of friends. But I grew up in income-based, subsidized living. The Welfare Square. We're on food stamps. Now, my dad eventually got clean. He came, he found my mom, and they actually got remarried to each other. My dad started a taxi cab business. My dad was on some stupid stuff, all right? He was selling drugs, so he got arrested. He went to prison. But I grew up trying to understand, just like everybody else does, what is my place? Who am I? I would hear these statistics when I was growing up, that if you grow up on welfare, you're going to be on welfare, right? If you have a parent that's in criminality, you're going to be a criminal. The people that I grew up with, okay, the vast majority of them, and myself included, were involved in criminal activity when we were younger, all right? Stupid stuff. I remember when I was 11 years old, I joined a gang in my little small town. I literally got jumped in, everything. I had to steal a bandana, got jumped in, learn all the clicks, learn all the sets, and then that shit disbanded. My point is that I grew up in a small town, but I still am a black man. And I learned to understand certain things about the American life because I'm living in it. And the thing that I came to understand more than anything is that I'm an individual. I make choices. I have to live with consequences, regardless of the color of my skin. And that's the reality. That's what's made me so mad watching this narrative that's being put out there, as though I didn't have a choice, as though the deck was stacked against me because of the color of my skin. I've had every opportunity that a white person has had. I have. It's about the choices I've made. That doesn't matter where you're from. I don't care if you grew up in North Minneapolis. I don't care if you grew up, in the hood in Atlanta. Wherever you grew up at. In America, since I've been alive, and I was born in 1984, the color of my skin doesn't define what my outcome's going to be. The reality is, in this country, we have this beautiful system that's set up that says that if you use hard work and determination, you take personal responsibility, you can achieve anything. And that's what my life has been. I wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. Like I said, when I was 11, I joined the gang. After that, I started drinking and partying. 12, 13 years old. First time I ever got high, first time I ever got drunk. All right? And yeah, guess what? People sell drugs. So I started selling drugs. I used drugs. But all that time, I didn't know that it was, this isn't a bad thing. Of course I knew it was a bad thing. But I wanted to get mine. Again, personal responsibility. So as I look at all these people saying all these things about Black Lives Matter, which that's a whole different issue that maybe in another video I'm going to talk about that. But there's this resounding and repeating narrative that somehow Black people don't have the same opportunities as white people, which again is flat out bullshit. You make the choices of your life. You decide what your life is going to be. By the time I was getting ready to graduate, I actually dropped out of high school, right? My senior year. Dropped out of high school, went with my best friend, went up to California, and things didn't work out. So I came back. On that way back, me and my buddy, we got picked up. We had a significant amount of marijuana on us in the state of Utah. And when I was able to get released to the custody of a family friend, and I went back to my hometown in North Dakota, I sat there and I waited. My mom wrote a letter. I joined the National Guard because it was 9/11 had happened that November. I joined the National Guard. My recruiter wrote a letter. And in that letter, they asked that I get some leniency, some forgiveness. And I, at that point, decided that I wasn't going to do stupid shit anymore. That was up to me. My choice. And luckily, yeah, luck happens. I didn't have to actually go to jail. Instead, I was told that I could not come back to the state of Utah for X amount of years. It was like 10 or 15 years. I had an open bench warrant in the state of Utah that was non-extraditable. But the point of that story is that the average person doesn't go through life not making mistakes, but it's about taking accountability and responsibility. So I turned my life around at that point. I decided that I was going to have a better path forward than the way that I was living. I moved to Minneapolis when I was 17, not even 18 yet, working for a company that was a pyramid scheme. Okay? I was living in a car that my buddy had given me. It was a $250 car. Thing barely ran. I didn't have a driver's license. Okay, I didn't have tabs. I didn't have insurance. But I had the ability and the desire to work. So I worked for a pyramid scheme for a year and a half. And I learned so much about people. I learned so much about life. But again, I decided that I was going to make my own path. I was homeless because my car ended up getting taken away. I had to go stay in a homeless shelter, but I built relationships. And of those relationships, someone helped me. Now again, I'm not trying to tell you my story because I think that I'm special. That's actually the exact opposite. I don't think I'm special. As I've experienced life and as I've met people from different walks of life, I find that my experience is very common. I'm not a smart, genius person. I scored a 16 on my ACT, okay? I had a 2.1 GPA by the time I was done with high school. Because after I came to Minneapolis and after I was homeless, I met this awesome woman. I ended up marrying her, and she convinced me I should go back and finish my high school stuff. So I finished my high school stuff, and then I decided, you know what? I should go to college. So what did I do? I enrolled to colleges, and they all denied me because I had a 16 on my ACT, and my GPA in high school was a 2.1. But I knew that there was still a path. Eventually, I got accepted into a community college. And that community college told me that if I got, a full year in, 2 semesters, that I could transfer to another school and that they wouldn't look at my high school transcripts. They wouldn't look at my GPA. They wouldn't look at my ACT. And that's exactly what I did, because now I was determined and focused. I was 20 years old, determined and focused. I ended up having a 3.98 GPA. I applied to college. I got into the University of Minnesota. Again, nothing, no means. Started from nothing. And again, I'm average. I'm not smart. I'm not like a genius, all right? I don't have privileged family members, okay? My mom, when I left North Dakota, my dad had just got out of prison. My mom and dad were living in an apartment with my 3 younger siblings, Okay. My dad lost the business, obviously, when he went to prison. My mom had to sell the taxi cabs and everything like that. Didn't really have money. You know what's even funnier? That whole time while my dad had that taxi cab business, we still lived in low-income subsidized housing. We still were on food stamps. We still had medical assistance. We still got free lunch when I was going to school. So let me ask you this. If that's the case, how did I become who I am today? I continued to hold myself personally responsible for the decisions I was going to make. I could have went and done more stupid stuff. I could have hung out with the same people that I hung up with when I grew up. Now, I love the people that I grew up with, okay? But people that make poor decisions, if you hang out with those people, bad decisions are going to happen to you too. But ultimately, I have a choice. So when I see all these posts talking about this is America, look at how racist these cops are. You don't think I've had interactions and run-ins with the police? Come on now. That's ridiculous. Like I said, of how I grew up, even when I moved to Minneapolis, when I was working for that pyramid scheme, I used to run into cops all the time. People call the cops all the time because guess what? I was walking around, okay, with a bag over my shoulder full of perfume and cologne that was knockoffs. That's what I did for a year and a half. That's what I sold when I was in the pyramid scheme. Of course the cops got called all the time. My interactions with the police were plentiful. But I never got shot. Was I handcuffed before? Hell yeah. But I understood because growing up, I saw other people get arrested. I saw my best friend when he was 14 years old get body slammed on the ground. He was white, got body slammed on the ground because he was being a jackass when the police were trying to arrest him. They put him in handcuffs and then he was like trying to be funny and they body slammed him, broke my buddy's Christmas tree, everything like that. But the point is that I already knew that. And I knew that when you interact with authority, you have to be a certain way. But that doesn't mean that you deserve to die. Of course not. So that's the other thing too, right? Like that there's this narrative that it's cops are evil, cops are racist. That's trash. You know that's trash because cops are human beings. So let me ask you this, okay? All of you guilty white people out there, all of you woke brothers and sisters that grew up in more affluent neighborhoods that didn't go through the grind, the muck, and the mire. Are you telling me that when you just go out and interact with human beings, that the majority of them are racist? That's trash. Police are the exact same subset of people, okay? All different walks of life. You take that, those people become police. So somehow there's this narrative that when you become a police officer, all of a sudden you're racist. Even if you are a brother or a sister, you're racist. That's trash. Absolute trash. Because you know it in your gut that it ain't true. But all these guilty white liberals, they want to protect me and my people from ourselves. Right? It's not our fault. The system was set up against us. We haven't had an opportunity to rise above. That's trash. And you know it. Look around. Open your eyes. See that none of that is true. All right? You make your life for what it is. In this great country, you have a choice each and every day. Are you going to get out there and are you going to get it? Are you going to get it legally? All right? Since I was that man on the street selling perfume and cologne, I knew that the opportunities were boundless. All I had to do is have the desire to go and work. I've never not had a job. And most of the time, I have a job and multiple side jobs to get money. That's what I do. Right now, I have my own business. Okay, I'm an insurance agent. I got my own business. But guess what I do on the side? I drive Lyft. I do Instacart. Every once in a while, I'll bar back at a bar, do some security. Because there's no impediments. The only thing that stands in my way of being successful is myself, my own self-doubt. That is the same for people of color. I don't care where you live. You make the choices that you make. You make the decisions that you make. But the way that the system is set up right now is the greatest chance of success. Even if you are a felon, which my father was. You have every opportunity. It's just there are certain barriers, a little bit higher barriers, but they're not unsurmountable walls. We all know people out there that got felonies, that are successful, that make money, okay, that have power, that get elected. That's trash and you know it. The system is not so set against people of color and black people that there's no chance to succeed, or that it's significantly higher barriers for black people and people of color than it is for white people. That's trash. Because I can tell you right now, of the people that I grew up with that are white, that aren't successful, it's because of the choices that they've made. The same applies for people of color, for black people, the choices that you make. That's what it's about. Does that mean that if you make a poor choice, you deserve to die? Nah, of course not. Does that mean that we need to hold police accountable? Absolutely. We should hold anybody accountable that takes an innocent life. We should hold anybody accountable that uses excessive force, regardless of if it's a cop or someone in the street. I also want to be very, very clear on this. I've heard this movement about abolishing the police. Listen, like I said, the way I grew up, the people I grew up with, the people I've interacted with, the people I've become friends with since I've become an adult, because I like to be friends with people of all different walks of life. If you don't know this and you live in America, consider yourself privileged regardless of what color you are. But criminal elements exist in this world, okay? There's ways of darkness and ways of light that exist in this world. When you talk about the things that are going on in these urban communities where people are dying, people are getting shot, what do you think that is? Criminalized, organized activity. That's what that is, all right? When you're like, oh, weed, hey man, it's not that big of a deal. Where do you think the weed comes from? Do you think it's just like some guy that's like, hey man, I'm a hippie, I'm just gonna sell some weed? Yeah, maybe there's some of that, but the vast majority is a criminal operation. It's a criminal enterprise because it's illegal, all right? So what do you have to do in a criminal enterprise to make sure that people don't take your stuff? Because guess what? You have to operate outside of the system, outside of laws, because it's illegal. So you handle your own business. You find a gun. You find people that will carry a gun. You find people that will protect the things that you have. That's criminality because there's no oversight. And if you think that within criminal elements, there's not other shit going on, like rapes, all right? Like sex trafficking, yeah, that happens on a regular basis right here in Minneapolis, in St. Paul, all over. There's an entire layer of darkness, an undercurrent that exists in society, and it always will exist because there is evil that exists. So if you want to tear down the system of light, the system of justice, laws, where there's oversight, and replace it with something that has none of those things, what do you think is going to happen? Just use your brain. Common sense is gone from people. That's what it is, common sense. You know, this Black Lives Matter, like I said, I don't even want to get into it in this, but the one thing that I will say is that movement, as much as you want to think that it's about Black lives mattering, that apparently the average American doesn't care about a black person, is trash. It's a political movement, all right? It's not about protecting black people, okay? It's not like saying, oh, well, if you don't support Black Lives Matter, you don't support black people. That's trash. Black Lives Matter is a political movement. They have stated political goals, okay? Ask a Black Lives Matter activist what they think about capitalism. Ask them what they think about free markets. Go ahead and ask them. Ask them what they think about people being more independent and less reliant on the government. Ask them. Just go ahead. Ask a Black Lives Matter activist what they think about those things. And you'll quickly realize it's not about race, okay? It's about a political movement. They've just been able to suck you in because the name implies that if you don't support it, that you apparently are racist. To the point that there's people that are supporting Black Lives Matter that have no clue what they stand for, that then again, if they post pro-BLM, and someone says anything even possibly derogatory about BLM, oh, you're racist, which is trash. Common sense, use it. So now I've been going on for almost 20 minutes, right? There's just so many other things that I want to say, you know? There's people that will watch this video that don't know me at all, of course. But the people that do know me, you know my heart. I want you to ask yourself, right? Those that do actually know me, am I a helpful person? Am I not the person that if I see someone that is asking for help on the street, if someone's like, hey man, I need $5 for this, that I say, hey, what do you need the money for? You want food? Let's roll. Jump in my car. I pick up people. I don't care where you're from. If you're suffering, if you're going through bad stuff, I'm the person that helps. Right? As a Lyft driver, I've helped so many people. I've befriended these people. All right? People that are going through substance and chemical dependency issues. In my own personal life, I am known as the guy that helps everybody, even to the detriment of my wife, and I love her with all my heart. We'll be married 16 years coming up here in July. But she hates how much I help people. That I'll pick someone up and drive them all the way across the city. I'll pay for things for them because I care about people. I have a heart for people. So before you dismiss everything that I've said, that I'm some, I'm just some right winger that just hates my own color and hates people, that's trash. And you know it's trash. And for those of you that don't know it, again, ask people that know me. What do they think about me? Do I have a heart? Do I help people on a regular and consistent basis? Because I do. And that's intentional. I have a mantra that I've adopted, and it's called be a decent fucking human. Again, excuse my language. But just be a decent human. If you have an opportunity to be a decent human, be a decent human. What does that mean? That means if you're out and about and someone is experiencing something and you can have a positive impact and it doesn't hurt you, it doesn't put you, it doesn't put you out to help them out, then be a decent person and help them. Just the other day, all right, just the super stupid thing. I had a washer and dryer delivered to me. One of the dudes that was delivering, I don't know what country he's from, but he was speaking Spanish. Okay, I don't know if he's Mexican, he could have been Dominican, who knows what he was, right? And he came up to me and said, he goes, hey sir, I left my phone charger at home. And I said, yeah, man, I got a charger, I'll find one for you. And he's like, oh, thank you. I gave him my charger, one that I had laying around, and an iPhone charger, right? And the dude was like so insistent, let me give you $5. Now this is stupid, I know. But that's just who I am, right? Just be a decent person. What's one extra little charger cord to me? But I do that on a regular basis. So when you watch this video and you wonder, who is this man that's saying all these different things? That's who I am. That's my heart. And the reality is, that's your heart too. The vast majority of you. As you've experienced life, you've seen kindness. When I hear that systemic racism exists, I say, where? Where is it? How is this happening? Right? And the people say, oh, you don't know, black people being gunned down in the street. No, they're not. They're not. Look at the population of African Americans in this country, of people of color in this country. Look at the overall population. We're talking like 40 million, okay? And then let's just say we say men, black men. Let's say half because the population is like 50% women, 50% men. So 20 million, okay? Just look back the last 20 years. How many black people have died by cops? We'll even include people that actually were running from the cops because they committed a murder or they actually had, committed a crime. We'll include those too. Okay? Out of 20 million, do you have an idea of how many? Take a guess. Just so way out in the air. Just if you had to guess, what would it be? You're probably thinking it's got to be like hundreds of thousands. Nope. Less than 10,000. Now, if we remove all the criminality from it, and we say how many unarmed black people were killed, what do you think the number would be? Again, just random guess. You probably think, at least got to be thousands. If 10,000 people are dying and you don't take out people that are unarmed and innocent, there's got to be thousands. That's what you probably think, right? Wrong. It's about 500. Now, don't get me wrong. In 20 years, 500 innocent people dying, that's a lot of people. Okay? But again, when you think about, we're talking about a population of 20 million people, I'm just trying to give you the understanding of when you think that every day there's a black man dying on the streets that's unarmed by a police officer. It's wrong. That's not true. Every day people are dying, okay? Every day. Law enforcement has a hard-ass job, man. They have to figure out the criminals from the non-criminals. That's what they have to try and do. Could they do a better job? Of course, no one's saying that we should just accept that 500 unarmed black people have died in the last 20 years. In the same way that we shouldn't accept that over 1,000 unarmed white people have died in the same time. Okay? Because that's the other part of this equation. It's not just black people. As a number, as a representative percentage of the population, more black people have died as a percentage as compared to white people. But overall, a lot more white people have died unarmed in this country by police. And that's the other thing too. I see these statistics thrown out there. But you want to know the funny thing about statistics? If you say them a certain way, it sounds like it's a bigger deal, right? Example. In Minneapolis, I believe, if I was looking at the Star Tribune correctly, they said that a black male in Minneapolis was 7 times more likely to die by a cop than a white male. Okay? 7 times more likely. It was like 6 or 7. And people are like, oh, damn, that's a huge number. That's a lot of people. That's what you think when you hear like 6 to 7 times. But again, pull it out, pull all the numbers out, pull the 6 to 7 times of what? Okay? If there's a 0.5% chance that you're going to be killed as an unarmed black person, 7 times of a 0.5% out of 100% is still a very small percentage. But it's not half, okay? We're talking about 0.0001% chance. Okay? That's what the chance is. And you're 7 times more likely. Okay? So do the math. That's still way less than 1%. But that's the way that this narrative is set up. When you hear about these statistics of how much more likely black men are to be killed by a cop than white men. As again, they use the X amount of times. But by what? What's the base? Okay? Is it 1 out of 100? Is it 1 out of 1,000? Is it 1 out of 10,000? That your likelihood, and you're 7 times more likely. So 7 out of 1,000? 7 out of 100,000? So you understand that you have to use your brain. Now I don't fault people that are trying to have a heart. Okay? It's so much easier that if you see Black Lives Matter or you see a statistic and you feel like, you know what, oh man, black people are suffering in America. Every day they're under a threat of assault by police officers. Every day the system is against them. If you have a heart, it's hard to ignore that feeling. And I'm not trying to say that you should be an asshole about it. Because I have seen that too, where people are just super, super, super abrasive about it. But it doesn't mean that you have to believe it just because someone tells you that that makes you a good or a bad person. Use your brain. Use your common sense. If nothing else, I guess just be quiet, because that's what so many people do. They're just quiet anyways. But don't accept whole cloth anything that anybody says. Don't accept whole cloth what I'm saying. All right? Do your own research, whatever. The point, though, is that this narrative that exists, which has made me so angry in the week and 5 days since George Floyd died, it made me so angry is that somehow my existence of what I am, of what I've accomplished, that it's a fluke apparently, all right? That the system, I'm just this master of navigating this racist systemic system. And that makes me angry because I know that that's not true. Again, I'm not a mastermind. I'm not a genius. I'm very average. Okay? We're talking about the bar here of like the smartest people, the most successful, and then, we'll call it the losers, the dregs of people that just constantly continue to F up every single day. Okay? I'm right in the middle. Okay? I'm not mistake free, but I've worked hard to have what I have. All right? That's what I've done. And that's what every American can do, regardless of the color of your skin. Just get out there and work hard. Literally, that's what you got to do. Work hard and don't associate with criminals. I know that might be hard to be like, well, these are my friends, this is who I grew up. I don't want to be alone. Again, that's a you choice. That's a you decision. That's not the system's. You're not forced to have to do anything. Guess what happens as soon as you get out of prison? You're free again. Okay? You can go live and be anywhere. You can do anything. That's up to you. You don't have to stay with the same people. You ain't got to stay in the same area. It might be hard, but guess what? There's so many resources that exist in this world. So many resources that exist. And there's so many kind people that exist in this world that if you want a fresh start, get a fresh start. And that's the crazy part about this. It really, really is. Is that somehow people have just accepted this notion that black people, we need help from all the white people. We need help from all the government. We just can't figure it out. It's that mentality of victimhood, which is a whole other thing as well. You tell entire generations of people that the deck is stacked against them and that they have no chance. What do you think people are going to do? But that's what you, the Democrats, you, the guilty white liberals, that's what you continue to perpetuate. Even these other woke, proud black liberals, that's what you're doing. Because you want to know the funniest thing about this, the most, and not funny, ha ha ha, but like funny, like, damn, that is funny. Because this person doesn't even see the destruction that they're doing. Is that these woke liberal blacks, most of the time, y'all grew up even better than me, than the average person. And you'll say, well, I had this certain privilege and look at the college that I went to and look at what I've been able to accomplish. But I'm still down with the struggle. I'm still down. Go ahead, go live in the street and go grow up where that is. All right. The funniest part about that is that you don't trust your fellow man. You don't think that they have it in them. That's the truth. You don't think that they can succeed. You think that, oh, well, I had all these things happen and I just have to look out for my fellow brother and my fellow sister. When the reality is, you have no faith in these people. That's what it comes down to. So just think about that for a second. If you're a guilty white liberal, or you are a black liberal that believes this liberal ideology, and you've had success in your life, the reason that you're so, oh man, Black Lives Matter and we got to help the poor black people of these cities and the communities, you have no faith in them. That's what it is. You don't think that they can accomplish what you've accomplished. You doubt them. And I would tell you you're wrong. You have to let people have individuality. You have to encourage people to be the best that they can be. You can't tell them, hey, I'm sorry, man, but even if you try and be your best, you're going to fail. Because then people won't try their best. That's the reality. And that's, again, a whole other thing. I'd just be doing more and more of these videos, but I just had to get this off my chest. Sitting back and watching all the events that have unfolded, hearing all the craziness about we need to end police departments, abolish police departments left and right, hearing that, this is the new civil rights movement, trying to understand, like, do I as a black man, have I just had this uncommon experience that I'm just not afraid of walking around and interacting with police? Like, is that just uncommon? Nah, look at just, there's been polls that have been released that the average black person doesn't feel afraid. You want to know who stokes fear? It's people that say they should be fearful. Now, I remember I used to watch a show, Maury, right? Back when I was in high school, this Maury show would be on. And every, how many ever episodes would go through, maybe 30 episodes, they'd have like a phobia one where people would come on, all right? And I just remember this one very vividly, that this woman was deathly afraid of mustard, all right? And so she comes out onto the stage, and then on like the TV screens, there's just bottles of mustard pouring out. And this woman lost her damn mind. Ran behind the stage, was hiding in a corner. They had to come and pull her out. And then she gets out there, and then they start showing the mustard again. She runs off the stage. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But the point of that is that that's real fear. That woman was deathly afraid of mustard. But does that mean that mustard's actually something she should be afraid of? So do you understand that? Yeah, fear is real. And are there people that actually fear that if they leave the house and they see a cop that they're going to have a negative interaction? Of course that fear has existed. But the question I have to ask you, is that fear because they're being told that? Or is that fear because of their experience? Because I can tell you, if you ain't on some dumb shit, If you ain't messing around with criminals, if you ain't messing around with people that are out there selling, I don't even care if it's weed. People, oh, it's just weed. Again, I said that earlier about the implications of anything that you are dealing with that is illegal, that it has no oversight, okay, that's not a legal entity, is going to bring criminality. And so if you are a person that you just grew up, and I don't care where you grew up, North Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, I don't care if you grew up in Detroit, whatever, and you did not interact with people that were in criminal rings, okay? If you didn't interact with gang members, if you didn't interact with people that were stealing stuff, doing stuff like that, you're not going to be afraid of the police, because the police don't have nothing to do with you. Might they pull you over and talk to you? Sure. But again, if you ain't on some dumb shit, you don't have to worry about it. So that's what the reality is. If you're not afraid of the cops, it's probably because you're like me and you haven't been doing a bunch of dumb shit as an adult. And when I was a kid, I was very defiant of cops. I didn't like cops because of my dad getting arrested, because of my buddies getting arrested, because the cops even messing with me. But you want to know what the reality is? I knew I was on some dumb shit. So that was to be expected. But yeah, now I'm at like 36 minutes. Just going to keep on going, but I'll probably stop now. I want to keep on going, but I'll probably just make some other videos. But I hope I maybe brought some insight for anybody that stuck around and watched all 36 minutes of this. Some different perspectives. Just stop. I would say my ultimate message is just think. Regardless if you're white, black, whatever, just think about what I've said. And stop just trying to create something that doesn't exist. Allow me, fellow Americans, people of color, black people, allow us to determine our own future. Don't tell us what we could or can't be. The system that exists is the greatest chance for success that exists in this world. There's nowhere else that you could be dropped into from nothing and be able to build anything that you want. Nowhere else. So God bless America. God bless the people of America. Even if you hate this country, I hope that you still do, bad things don't happen to you. I hope that you find success, because maybe if you find greater success, you'll learn to hate this country less. But that's it. Signing off.